Okay, exercise 9. So here we have a fixed integer n that is greater than 1, that means n is a positive integer greater than 1, and it is given that a mod n is a prime and b mod n is b prime. That means a and b are integers such that if you divide them by n, the remainders that you will get are a prime and b prime respectively. We then have to prove that these two equations are true. What this really means literally is that if we divide a plus b by n, we will get some remainder. This is that remainder. And if we divide just like that, if we divide a prime plus b prime by n, this is the remainder that we will get. That these two remainders are equal. We have to show that. But we have already seen in a previous exercise that this happens if and only if a plus b minus of a prime plus b prime is divisible by n. So it's enough to show that, and that's what we will show. Okay, so since remainders, similarly we have to show this one also. So since remainders are there and we have to after all do the things with division and remainders, so we need to apply the division algorithm in the beginning itself. So we can start the solution like this. By the division algorithm, there exist unique integers, say q1 and q2, such that when we divide a by n, the quotient is q1 and the remainder of course is a mod n, which is given to be a prime. Like that, b is equal to q2n plus b prime. We don't really need uniqueness of q1 and q2 here, but it does not hurt to write that they are unique. Okay, so now what we want to show is that a plus b minus a prime plus b prime is divisible by n. So to calculate a plus b, we can use these expressions. Then a plus b, instead of calculating just a plus b, let us directly calculate this itself. A plus b minus a prime plus b prime. So if we just simply substitute these expressions for a and b, we would get q1n plus a prime plus q2n plus b prime minus of a prime plus b prime. So these two things will cancel out and we will be left with q1n plus q2n, which can be written like this. So from this we can see that this difference is divisible by n because it's a multiple of n and n is non-zero. Okay, simply being a multiple of something does not tell us that that thing divides the given integer. The thing of which it is a multiple, that thing should also be non-zero for divisibility. Okay, but we don't stop here. We continue by calculating AB also at the same time. I think I can write here itself. Will it look bad? Let me write it here. So AB minus a prime b prime is equal to q1n plus a prime times q2n plus b prime minus a prime b prime. This is equal to, if we perform the multiplication, we will get q1 q2 n square plus q1 n b prime plus q2 n a prime plus a prime b prime minus a prime b prime. So these two things will cancel out, and in the remaining terms in each one of them we have n. So we can take n common out. Doing that will give us q1 q2 n plus q1 b prime plus q2 a prime times n. So this is again an integer multiple of n, so n divides this difference. Integer multiple, because here you see q1 and q2 are integers, so their sum is an integer, and here all the symbols that you are seeing, they are integers, so this expression is an integer. This shows n divides a plus b minus a prime plus b prime, and n also divides ab minus a prime b prime. And hence a plus b mod n equals a prime plus b prime mod n and ab mod n equals a prime b prime mod n. So what this exercise tells us is that it gives us a way of simplifying our calculation. Suppose we want to calculate this, what remainder shall we get when we divide a plus b by n? Instead of performing the addition first, you can perform the divisions first. Divide a by n, collect the remainder, that remainder is a prime. Divide b by n, collect the remainder, that remainder is b prime, and then you can add the remainders. Since the remainders will always be less than n, so your calculation will be significantly simplified. You then have to just add a prime and b prime, and that will be a much smaller number than the given ones, and then you can divide that by n to find the final remainder. Similarly this one. So this completes the solution. Then exercise 10. In fact, in one of the previous exercises we employed this technique to calculate the remainders, if you remember, where many modulo values we were asked to find. Let a and b be positive integers. b be positive integers, and let d be the GCD of a and b, and there is more, m be the LCM of a and b. Okay, if t divides both a and b, prove that t divides d. if S is a multiple of if S is a multiple of both A and B. Prove that S is a multiple of M. Okay, so if you are following the definitions of this text of Galilean's algebra, you may notice that GCD and LCM have been defined literally. That is, GCD is the greatest among all the common divisors of A and B, and LCM is the least among all the common multiples of A and B. Usually this is not how these quantities are defined in algebra. They are defined in a slightly different manner using these things. What we have to show here, in terms of these divisibilities, they are defined. The reason is that in the system of integers, in the ring of integers, I may say, even at this very early stage, we have an order relation that allows us to say things like greatest element, least element, which may not be available in a general ring, but divisibility is something that is available. So in terms of divisibility also, someone can define GCD and LCM, and this exercise shows that our definition of GCD and LCM using the order relation that is there in the ring of integers implies this other definition. Okay, if these turn out to be GCD, then they happen to be, for example, this is the GCD, D is the GCD of A and B, then it happens to be an integer, a positive integer, such that every common divisor of A and B also divides D. Okay, and this statement does not involve this greatest or least, this order relation. In fact, the converse is also true. If someone uses this new condition as the definition of GCD, one can then prove that the number D that one will get using this turns out to be the greatest common divisor in our sense. That is, it is the greatest among all common divisors. Okay, so let us now try to show this. It does not matter which definition you use. Ultimately, what matters is that result, which says that the GCD can be written as a linear combination. We know that D is equal to, S and T are already there, so we have to use something else. Let us use alpha and beta. Alpha A plus beta B for some integers alpha and beta. Okay, it is it's not given, it has been asked to show that if T divides A and, okay, so let us write in that sense. if T divides A and T divides B, then clearly T also divides alpha A plus beta B from elementary properties of divisibility, which is nothing but D. So that's how T divides D. Any divisor of A and B has to divide the greatest common divisor. Okay, next. So this is rather easy and almost immediate that T divides D. Next, what we have to prove is that S is a multiple of M. What is S? S is a multiple of both A and B. It is a common multiple. Since or if S is a multiple of both A and B, then S is equal to, say, gamma A, which is also equal to delta B for some integers gamma and delta. Now next what we do, we divide S by the least common multiple M. We can do that because A and B are given to be positive integers. So their least common multiple is also a positive integer. In particular, M is not 0. So we can divide by M. Since M is not equal to 0, the division algorithm implies that there exist unique integers T and R such that S is equal to Pm plus R and the remainder R is non-negative and less than M, right? Now R is equal to, we should have not only just this, but we should have written M also as a multiple of both A and B. I forgot what I have written here. Did we write anything? No, the solution starts here. We haven't written M as a multiple of A and B. So before we do anything else, let us do that. Since M is a multiple of A and B, we have M is equal to, say, UA and VB for some integers u and v. Okay, now we can work with this equation. Now r is equal to s minus t m. Okay, on one hand s is gamma a and m is ua, so we can use that gamma a minus t ua. This is equal to gamma minus tu times a, and at the same time, on the other hand, r is also equal to, s is also equal to delta b and m is vb. So this is delta b minus t vb. So delta minus tv times b, that is r is a common multiple of a and b. But now you look at these inequalities, m is the least common multiple of a and b and r is smaller than m. Since r is less than m, we cannot have r greater than 0, as otherwise the minimality of m will be contradicted. By definition, m, which is the least common multiple, is the least among all positive common multiples. So since r is less than m and r has been shown to be a common multiple of a and b, r cannot be positive. So that's why r has to be equal to 0, because r is bound to be non-negative. This implies r is equal to 0, and hence, so if r is 0, what do we get from here? S is equal to Tm, that is S is a multiple of m, and that's what we wanted to show. So this completes the current solution. The whiteboard is acting up. It's not cleaning properly. The ink is getting smeared. Okay, I'm trying my best to keep it clean, but very soon it will be extremely, ashen and somewhat, what can I say? You can already see that the texts have not gone fully. It looks very dirty, but what can I do? Okay, next, exercise 11. let n and a be positive integers. Okay, let n and a be both are positive integers, and let D be the GCD of A and N. Show that the equation AX equal to 1 mod n has a solution if and only if the GCD is 1. Okay. So here we have two things to prove. If this has a solution, then D is 1, and conversely. So let us start with this having a solution. First, assume that the equation AX equal to 1 mod n has a solution x naught, say. It means that n divides ax naught minus 1. The integer ax naught minus 1 is divisible by n. Okay, we then have to prove that D is equal to 1. Then n divides ax naught minus 1, and so ny is equal to ax naught minus 1 for some integer y. This implies, okay, what do we get from this? 1 is equal to ax naught plus n times minus y. Now you look at this final equation. A linear combination of a and n is 1 where the coefficients are integers, or in other words, an integer combination of a and n is 1. So we have already seen this previously. We can directly conclude from this that the GCD of a and n is 1, because we already know, okay, let me again repeat, the GCD is the least positive integer that can be expressed as a linear combination of the integers for which the GCD is being found. So this is the least positive integer without any restriction. So this will be the GCD. Or because now we have that other thing also. Oh, we haven't proved both sides of that thing. I mean, I was trying to come from that other direction where we have the characterization of GCD as the positive integer which divides both a and b and which is divisible by all the common divisors of A and B. But then I remembered that we haven't proved that the two things are equivalent. We have only proved one of the ways. Anyway, so this implies D is equal to 1. How this implies D is equal to 1, that you already know. Conversely, assume D is equal to 1, then 1 is equal to alpha A plus beta N for some integers alpha and beta, because 1 is the GCD, so it will be expressible as an integer combination of A and N, where we have now chosen the integers to be alpha and beta. This implies A alpha minus 1 is equal to minus beta times N. A alpha minus 1 is equal to minus, okay. That is, N divides A alpha minus 1. Thus, A alpha is equal to 1 mod N. That is, the equation Ax equal to 1 mod N has a solution, and that's the converse part. This completes the solution, current solution. Exercise 12. Show that five n plus 3 and 7n plus 4 are relatively prime for all n. What is this exercise saying? For all n means they haven't written, but it means for all integers n. Note that n is not necessarily positive, it can be 0 also and it can be negative also. Whatever be the case, none of these integers will be equal to 0. Why? Because for this to be 0, n has to be minus 3 by 5. N is an integer, it cannot be minus 3 divided by 5. Like that, for this to be equal to 0, n has to be equal to minus 4 divided by 7, which is not possible. So both of these are non-zero integers, and we know that non-zero integers have a greatest common divisor. We have to show that that greatest common divisor, irrespective of the value of n, is always 1. That means the integers are relatively prime. So from the technique that we have seen quite a few number of times by now, we just have to show that an integer combination of these two things is equal to 1 irrespective of n. Note that and if you think about it, you can easily get it. Minus 5 times 7n plus 4 plus 7 times 5n plus 3 is equal to 1 for all n. Minus 5 times 7n and 5 times 7n, they cancel out. Minus 5 times 4 is minus 20 and 7 times 3 is 21, so they will give us 1. Hence hence I forgot for a moment what I was doing. Hence 5n plus 3 and 7n plus 4 are relatively prime for all n. That's it. The next exercise 13. Suppose that m and n are relatively prime and r is an integer. Okay.